I remember the first deal I did in the land business. It was awful. I bought this crappy 1/4 acre lot in southeast Utah in the middle of nowhere, and I paid too much for it. It took me 5 months to sell it, and I only made 83% return on investment. Can you imagine? I made 83% return on investment in 5 months, and it's the worst deal I've ever done. Try doing that in the stock market or any other market for that matter. On my best deal to date, I made over 3,000% return on investment. In this episode of the Land.MBA podcast, David and I will discuss why land is our favorite investment strategy.
Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast, where we go deep into the business of land investing.
All right. What's going on today, Howard?
Yeah, I had a cool thing happen to me last night. I heard from an old boss of mine, a guy I worked for in 2003. I'm guessing that there are at least some people listening to this podcast who may have been 5 years old then. This was a long time ago, and I haven't spoken to him in ages. And he was thinking about me. He said he looked me up on Facebook and kind of saw the recent events in my life and decided to give me a call. It was really, really great to hear from him. So we were talking about our lives and what was going on, and he was telling me about his son, who was a corporate guy, did pretty well, and then decided to get out and follow his passion. And he started a restaurant, which, prior to a couple months ago was probably an okay business. And at any rate, he sold it, which I said, hey, that's good timing. He said, not really. It was kind of like after the virus hit. So he took a bit of a hit, but it had all been in the works before. So anyway, he got out of the restaurant, and he's kind of not very happy right now because he's thinking he's going to have to go back into this soul-sucking corporate job to make ends meet. And he's asking me what I'm doing, and I'm telling him all about land investing and land speed and all the rest. And he was so intrigued. He's like, well, you may just get a call out of the blue from somebody that shares my last name. So it just reminded me, just how awesome this business really is, just because, I was the corporate guy. I was in corporate for 20 years, and I broke free of it, and God, it beat me down those 20 years. And I was thinking I was going to have to go back, and I found land, and man, I have never looked back.
Well, I think a lot of people can echo that sentiment, as can I. It's a great business. I mean, it's provided a lot of people a lot of freedom, and whether you're someone that's just looking for a side hustle because you've hit that glass ceiling in your career and you're kind of capped out on how much you can make, or you don't want to work for the man forever. You don't want to just try to save up a measly retirement and have nothing else. And so you start building this side hustle. And that's the great thing about it is, there's no rehabs, no running out to the property when you get the wholesaler's text and only to find it sold. It moves a lot more slowly. And yeah, the returns are sick, quite honestly.
They totally are. For anybody who's gone to business school or gotten an MBA, you always hear that the purpose of a business is to increase shareholder wealth. That is the primary objective of a business. Well, as a business owner, I can say that is absolutely true. And yet, so many of us, we leave business school, get our MBAs or whatever it is, we go off into the corporate world, and we forget that what we are doing is we are working hard to increase shareholder wealth, but we're not really the shareholders. Oh, we might get some options, and we might get, a little bit of equity to tease us. But the guys who are making the bucks are the big owners and the big investors sitting on the board of directors. And the job of management is to extract every ounce of flesh, productivity, return off of every employee that they possibly can, not so that they'll get wealthy, but so that the owners will get wealthy. So I say this all the time. When I'm on my third career now. First career was military, second career was corporate. Now I'm an entrepreneur. And at this stage of my life, I have 4 absolutely non-negotiable requirements in my career. So the first one is I have to love what I'm doing. I got to look forward to getting up in the morning. If I don't, I'll go find something else to do. The second thing is there can be no cap on how much money I can make. If I'm willing to work twice as hard, I want to make twice as much money, not just the guy sitting on the board of directors who I'll never meet. Third, geographic independence. By God, we live in the internet age. If I've got a laptop, a smartphone, and an internet connection, I should be able to do this business from anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter whether I'm at home, I'm in an RV, in a national park, so long as there's internet, I'm on a beach in Thailand. Why can't I just continue to run my business? And 4, I can never be fired or downsized. That is key. I've been downsized twice. And, in both times, I kind of survived. And the first time I survived a number of rounds of downsizing. But, when you're one of the more expensive people in a period where they need to, the order comes from down on high that says we will lower our OpEx or our outlay. You got to get rid of bodies. And so expensive bodies are always going to be the first ones they're going to look at because maybe I can keep 2 at the expense of 1. It's happened to me twice, and it's horrible. There is no loyalty in this world anymore. Those days are long past. So we have to be loyal to each other. And God, how much better it is when we can control our own destiny.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar experience in that I was already in this business doing it as a side hustle, and almost to the point where I could have quit my job. I mean, it would have been I wasn't quite there yet. I mean, if I had to survive on I could have survived very meagerly. And I got let go. I got downsized about 2 weeks before Christmas a few years ago, and totally unexpected. And I was a little bit stressed. I had savings, but who wants to bleed down their savings that takes forever to build up? And so I happened to leave my phone on Christmas Eve, and I got a call, and I had one single buyer take down 3 nice properties, and I made $51,000 profit. Now, I didn't close for 30 days, but that sure took the pressure off finding a job. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have this business.
That's an awesome story, by the way. You just never know when, God, whatever you want to call it, is just going to come down and shower upon you. It's just absolutely fantastic. When I left my last corporate job, it was the end of 2015, and I was just starting to learn about land at that time and starting to get into it. But I fully expected to get another job, if nothing more than just to get me through a transition period until land was, giving me enough income that I could leave, just like so many other people. And I was pretty far. I was really all the way down the road with 2 companies. One was on Wall Street, which would have been like a 2.5-hour commute each way. And the other was about 40 minutes. Soul sucking. And the other one was, about 40 minutes away. But it was in my total sweet spot. I mean, they were both, CMO roles in industries that I had the background for. And they went all the way down to the wire. I was one of the final 2 candidates in both cases. And in both cases, I didn't get it. And I was, for different reasons, and I was devastated. It was a real hit to my ego, because not necessarily that I wanted either job, but if I'm not going to get a job, I want it to be because I reject them, not because they reject me. That's kind of how it felt. At least I want it to be my decision, not theirs. But I got all the way that far, and I didn't end up getting it. Well, the job on Wall Street, one of my colleagues from my previous company was working there. And about a year or two later, he had left and he said, "Howard, man, you dodged a bullet. That was the worst professional experience of my life." So not only would I have had a 2.5-hour commute each way, I would have hated every single second of it. And then the other job, it was I think it would have been an okay job, but in the end, for personal reasons, I needed an awful lot of flexibility in my schedule for the last 2 years. And I absolutely would not have had that had I been in a regular job. Well, I ended up doing the land while I was looking, and the land took off. And so I really didn't need those jobs, which was great. And so I was able to kind of build a land business and then build Land.Speed. And before you knew it, I left all that corporate stuff in the rear view mirror. And man, it was as devastating as I was that I didn't get those jobs. I look back on it now, and it was the greatest gift I could have ever done. If I had taken those jobs, I probably would have put my heart and soul into them, because that's what I do when I'm in a job. And I wouldn't have put my effort into land, and it would have fallen by the wayside. And I'd still be sitting there in a corporate environment today.
Well, hey, I mean, awesome stories. We could go on and on and on. But there's a couple of key points I want to get to and talk about some deal examples, both yours and mine. But before I do that, I got a few words to say about our sponsor, Land.Speed. Hey folks, my name is David Van Steenkist, and I've been a real estate investor for over 10 years. I've used lots of different tools, but none of them has done for my business what Land.Speed does. Land.Speed covers every step in the land investing process, from ordering mailing lists to marketing, sales, and closing the deal. What I really like, though, is it anticipates my needs. When I think, oh, I wish I had a quick and easy way to evaluate return on investment on a potential property, look no further, Land.Speed does it. If I want to edit a deed after Land.Speed creates it, it can do that too. Most systems just stick you with a PDF that's uneditable, and you got to go back into the system and edit the fields and do whatever you need to do, and it's a real pain in the rear end. Land.Speed simplifies it. If I want to send 1 or 5 or even 40 neighbor letters at the click of a button, bam, Land.Speed does it. But even with all that inherent capability, you get access to Land.Speed community, you get weekly mastermind calls, and you get the best mailing rates in the business with no volume commitment, which is freaking awesome. Because if I just want to pop one contract to somebody, I don't have to pay $1.50. I still pay the bargain basement rate. And on top of that, customer service is stellar, quick, and they just do a great job. I've been very, very happy, very pleased with it. And look, I've been running my business on Land.Speed for over 2 years. So take it from me. If you're serious about your land business, then check out Land.Speed at facebook.com/landbizautomation. That's land, B-I-Z automation. And if you want $100 off, tell them you heard it from me, David Van Steenkist, on the Land.MBA podcast. So you said that the worst deal you ever did, and it was your first deal, so good to get it out of the system, in land was an 83% ROI.
That's right.
That sucks. So tell us about...
It's terrible. Worst deal I've ever done.
Tell us about some of your better deals, like your let's say, what's kind of an average deal like in your business, and then I'll tell you about some of mine, and then what are some wows that you've had, some of your really great deals that come along every, amongst the 50 singles, occasionally the triple and the home run. Tell us about some of those.
Yeah, so I don't think there are necessarily any standard around it. It depends upon whether, where it's located, what level, what the price of the property is will change the ROI. You've got, you certainly get plenty of singles and doubles, but every once in a while you get the triple and the home run, and that really blows it out. So, I would say that, on average, I'm somewhere between 150% and 400% ROI. That would be sort of the typical range. Every once in a while I'll do one below that. And I certainly do that where well above that. The funny thing is that best deal that I ever did, which was above 3,000% ROI, I was down on Wall Street in my interview suit, getting ready to go upstairs for the interview. And and I had my head in the game, and I was like, I had my game face on. I was ready to do this. And my phone rang, and this guy says, "Yeah, I got this letter from you. Yeah, I'd like to do it." And I had no idea what this guy was talking about, because I was totally into what I was about to do. And I'm like, I'm sorry, who is this? And he's explained who he was. And all of a sudden it clicked on in my head. And I said, oh, yes. Very good. So excellent. So tell me a little bit, now I'm trying to sound all casual. So tell me a little bit about the property and what's the story about it. And I'm asking you some questions. And then finally I said, all right, this is great. This is the process. Next step, we're going to do due diligence. Are we good? Everything fine on the price? He goes, yeah, the price is fine. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. This was one of my very first mailers. My prices were way too low. So I ended up buying from this guy 40 acres in Colorado for $1,900. Now, to anybody in Connecticut where I live, that is jaw hit the floor, right? Because you can't get a half an acre here for less than, $300,000-$400,000. So to get 40 acres for $1,900. He was an older guy. He was living in Michigan. He and his wife went out there when they were younger. They loved it. They said, oh, let's buy a property. We'll put a cabin on it. They go back to Michigan, have some kids. Life gets in the way. They never went back to Colorado. His wife sadly passed 5 years prior to when I had that phone call with him. And he's like, and he was responsible. He never missed a tax payment. His taxes were all caught up. And he's like, yeah, let's, I don't have any kids to give him. So yeah, I'll sell it to you. So I picked it up for $1,900. Huh?
What'd you sell that for?
Well, so I sold it on terms, collected the down payment and the doc fee. And then the guy calls me back and he's like, you know what? I don't know that I can do this. Can you just let me out of the contract? And I said, if you want me to, I will. So I let him out of the contract. He never asked me for his down payment or doc fee back. And then I sold it again. And the same thing happened. The guy's like, you just let me out of the contract. I'm like, and I'm new to the business. I'm like, what's going on with this? So I let him out of the contract.
So by now, you've actually recouped your capital and probably then some.
Just about. But the third time I sold it, I was profitable just on the down payment and the doc fee. And I sell it to this guy, a real nice guy. And basically it's, $500 a month for 10 years. And the guy has never once missed a payment. He's an awesome, awesome customer. And so basically, $1,900, I think all in, I'll make like $54,000 on it or something like that.
That's awesome. That's freaking phenomenal. That's more than 3,000%.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, okay, the short term without interest. Okay, that's way up there. That's awesome. That's a great deal, man. I have not just from great deals, but also just how they happened. I've got some great stories. I have a property that it was a nice 2-acre property that I bought, and it was a nice property. And I, it was one of those things where I just got lucky. It was when I was first starting, and I was throwing out everybody gets a $500 offer.
Yeah.
And occasionally you get lucky and you pick one up. And so I picked it up for $500. I look at it online. I'm like, this is a nice property. And I probably could have charged more for it, but I wasn't sure what to ask. So I threw it out there at, $16,000. And I had someone, this was the beauty of this deal. I never talked to the person, never communicated with the buyer in any way. No email, no text, nothing, no phone calls. She saw it online, went out and looked at the property, came back, went on my website, checked out online. Woke up in the morning with mailbox money.
I love that.
300% return, something like that.
I remember when I was still a corporate guy, I would say, it'd be nice to just make a little bit of extra money. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just like walk out to my mailbox and there was a reason why people would just be sending me checks? How cool would that be? Yeah. We found it.
But as an average, so I averaged out a bunch of my deals up to the first 100. I got to do the rest, but so my average, when you talk about ROI, it depends. Like when you buy the really cheap stuff, you have more ROI. It's easier to get a higher ROI, but then, the amount of dollar spread, like you buy something for $1,000 and sell it for $2,000, or buy it for $1,500 and sell it for $2,000 or $3,000. It's a great return, but it's not that much money. You got to do a lot of those deals to have some significant capital. So I averaged out my first 100 deals, and they were $4,700 average purchase price and an average sale price of $12,500, and an average terms sale of $18,000. So those are pretty nice returns, and that's spread out over 100 deals.
Those terms prices are with or without the interest?
Those are without the interest. So
so you actually made more than that.
That's just the face price, yeah. So on some,
yeah.
You're going to end up making, depends on how long they pay on it, but
right.
how long they take to pay off. But it's gosh, have you ever set foot on one of your properties?
Never once.
Over 150. I've never set foot on once. Now, I went down to visit an area. I went and drove around Colorado, took some vacation, and happened to have some. And so I drove by a couple that I had, but I didn't need to. I was just down visiting the area.
Well, I always like to say about the land business. The land business is you buy land that you've never seen in a county that you've never been to, from a person that you've never met, and then you turn around and sell it to somebody else that you've never met, all from the comfort of your own home. It's insane. It's
wonderful. And then, there's so much now you can automate, and so much you can outsource. There's, I would say you can probably outsource and automate 80% of your business. If you get to the point like our friend Roman, you could probably, where he's getting about ready to do not 100, but probably 95. He's hiring a general manager, but you can get to that point. But on a very realistic business for most solopreneurs, you can build a team with VAs and get the right automation and outsource 80% of it. And so all you need is a laptop and a cell phone, an internet connection and a phone, and you can run this business.
Absolutely. This is maybe a bit off topic, but I met with a potentially new bookkeeper today, and my previous bookkeeper was in Arizona. I found her on Upwork, and it just wasn't quite working out. It wasn't what I needed, and so I just kind of had this idea in my head that I really want to start going local. I want to increase all my resources locally. I want to be able to reach out, touch them, work with them, collaborate with them. And it was just such a great meeting. She's part of a firm with an accountant. I met with all of them. And it was just such a great meeting. And I just got this sense of proactivity and, curiosity about my business and wanting to deeply understand it so that they could provide, not just a tactical service, a task-oriented service, but to actually help me grow my business. And so for all those task-oriented things, of course, you use the right resource at the right price for the right job. But I'm increasingly just really liking the idea of hiring people that in their silo, in their area of expertise, I want people who know more than I do or smarter than I do are going to bring value to my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And local, if I can do it locally, and when I do that, I always have Roman in my head because, he's sort of my model for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's going to be an opportunity. I mean, it's sort of, on one hand, it's sad, but there's going to be, an opportunity from now and, for the foreseeable future, being able to hire, really excellent talent from the large unemployment pool for short term. So,
we shouldn't even skip over that point. I think that is going to end up being the aha moment of this podcast. It is unfortunate, but on the other hand, our industry is doing fine through this, at least for the moment, through this whole COVID-19 episode. And it represents a mutually beneficial opportunity for us to be able to hire locally at a price we can afford, help somebody else out, but really build that sort of talent pool. And if it creates the right amount of value, then who knows, maybe you can expand from there. It's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it might be a temporary job for somebody, but it helps them out. Helps them pay their rent, pay their mortgage, and helps us out with probably a higher level of talent than we could normally afford. And for some people, they would trade the flexibility for less money and not having to commute and things like that.
Even in the absence of COVID-19, you go to the mom's market or the spouses, stay-at-home spouse market. People who really do prize that flexibility over the price tag.
Yeah. There's value there. You can. There's a lot of things that people don't factor in just in commuting. Getting ready when you can just roll out of bed in your pajamas and start working, or there's a lot. You start adding up all that time, half hour here, half hour there, plus the commute, and then multiply it is 5-10 hours a week. Well, what's that worth?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't. I mean, I would have had to, if I took that job in New York, I would have had to drive 20 minutes to the train station. I would have 5 days a week. I'd be taking the train into New York City. What's just the commuting cost of that? Because I should be deducting that from whatever my salary is, because that's money I'm immediately going out the door. It's the cost of doing business. And so I'm actually, not even making that much when you put it all together. Or certainly not whatever my salary might indicate, to do. It's hardship. It's just hardship.
Plus, as a W-2, you don't have any write-offs and you're getting hammered on taxes. As an entrepreneur, you keep a little more of what you make. So
exactly. I mean, I work out of my house. My office is a tax deduction. My car is a tax deduction. I mean, everything's a tax deduction. Half my food is a tax deduction. Absolutely.
So let's see. You talked about a wow deal. I talked about a couple of wow deals. So, and the deal that, where I never even talked to the person. And so actually last night I sold a property. It was really awesome. I got contacted through the chat bot on my website, and I replied to the guy. It looked like a U.S. phone number that he put in as well. So we went back and forth a couple times, and then I just picked up the phone and called him, and I got him, and he's like, "Yeah, I really want the property," and but I'm about to go to bed, so I found out he's a Marine stationed in Kuwait, in quarantine right now in Kuwait, and anyway, then I just before I went to bed, actually. I noticed that he checked out on my website online and bought the property. So, it was awesome.
You better take care of my Marines, my friend.
I know.
But someday he's going to come back and they'll track you down.
And actually, I should count them up, but I've sold, either to active military or to vets. They love land,
Well, a lot, it's funny, especially if you're in a place like, Southern Colorado or Arizona, there are not an insignificant, sad. There are not an insignificant number of vets that come back from Iraq, from, Afghanistan, and they've got PTSD, they've got some issues, and it's frankly, they're at least partially disabled veterans because of that experience. And they literally need a place where they're not going to be, and massive amounts of contact with other people. And I've sold tons of properties in that area of the country to disabled veterans.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, good. I think we have covered this pretty well. I mean, who do you think, in your mind, are good candidates to do the land business? I mean, I've thought about, certainly when we talk about military, if you've got maybe a military wives or spouse where they're traveling and it's difficult for them, the spouse, to keep a job because they're getting moved. Well, something like this, where all you need is a phone and an internet connection. I think
business goes with you.
Anybody who wants to get some side income that can eventually turn into a full-time business. And as I talked about before, somebody in a dead-end career.
Teachers, absolutely. I mean, they got time off in the summertime. I mean, I think it's a misnomer to think a teacher doesn't always feel like a full-time job. Oh, school ends at 3:00 or whatever. I'm sure they've got grading papers and they've got creating lesson plans, and they've got a lot more to do than that. But I do think that, they've got a very defined, hopefully, a fairly defined schedule that would leave time for something like this. They are typically, probably, I think people would agree, not paid, certainly at the level of the importance of their contribution. And that's something that's flexible that they can make extra money, I think would be fantastic. Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course, and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your JOB and hello to financial freedom.
I couldn't agree more. I know a guy in the business who is quite successful, is a teacher or was a teacher. He's now doing this full time, but he started doing it as and it took him 3-4 years to get up to the point where he had the choice to leave the teaching profession if he wanted to, but he would just crush it in the summers. He would work really hard in the summers and really focused and do a lot of mail, and then that would carry him, and then he just had to, and then he could outsource some of the work and just work it part-time through the rest of the year. And so he's a great success story of a teacher. I also think it's a great side gig for a realtor. It's a great second stream of income for a realtor, for sure. It's congruent. We were kind of talking about congruency or synergy in your business streams the other day. And then, of course, wholesalers and house flippers to add another stream. Again, it's a congruent stream of income, a congruent business model. A lot of the same principles apply. So it's pretty easy to adopt for them. They're familiar with sending mail out and targeting sellers and talking to sellers. And so it's a natural fit.
Absolutely. Why is it that there are so many people in real estate that believe that land is an absolutely terrible investment?
Oh, that's a great question. We were talking about this earlier. I think there is first of all, it's just lack of knowledge. You don't hear that much about land. You don't have TV shows about land, like flipping houses and things like that. And I think people just don't, until they learn about it, they don't know what you can do with it. I think they think of, okay, piece of land, you can't make any money with it unless you develop it. A lot of developers go belly up. It's a kind of you can get caught between market cycles like right now. If you got caught on the buy side and you're not going to get your return for a couple of years later after you develop, and you got caught with amongst the coronavirus, those guys could be hurting. I think the other thing people think of is land banking, where you try to select something in the path of progress and hope that it is the path of progress. And in, 5-10 years, you'll be able to sell it to a developer and make some money on it. But in the meantime, it doesn't cash flow. You got to pay the property taxes. You got all that capital tied up. And that's the way I think people think about it. And they don't think about what we do. And that's unsolicited marketing to the thousands, if not millions, of landowners who inherited it, who, like the people you bought the $1,900 40-acre parcel from. I mean, that's a common story. They took a vacation out west and said, let's buy some land and maybe we'll build a cabin on it. And then 40 years go by and they're like, what are we doing on this? And so we solicit those people and we take it off their hands very cheap. And then we resell it cheap and we make a spread. It's just simple. No development, no cleanup. It's very simple.
Yeah, I think they look at it from the prism of the business that they're in. And they say, well, land, it's not a particularly appreciating asset. It's not an income generating asset. And it's probably hard to sell because it's in the middle of nowhere. So without having a ton of knowledge about the land and without having almost any knowledge about the business model, they simply evaluate it within the context of a single family home market, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, in the military, we always say, you're always fighting the last war, and it takes a little bit of time before you figure out what the current war is all about, right? So when World War II started, they were still fighting World War I. When World War I started, they were fighting the Spanish-American War, whatever it is, and eventually, they figured out, World War I, this is about battleships. So they started, you had all these battleships in World War II until they realized it was all about aircraft carriers. And it's the same thing here. Is they're fighting the wrong war because they're just not able to get out of they think they know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know, and they're afraid. And so I read these articles, and all I can say is, I feel bad for the people that are taking that advice too seriously because they are getting really screwed out of a tremendous opportunity. It's sort of like when you go to a financial advisor and they're telling you get into these stocks or get into these mutual funds or these bonds. Well, wait a minute. I'm going here and you're offering me mutual funds, stocks, and bonds. Why is it you're only offering me paper assets? Is it because that's what your company sells? Where's real estate? Where's gold? Where are, where's other asset classes that, no, you shouldn't invest in those. Those aren't any good. Why? Because your company doesn't sell them?
I've got the question. It kind of ties in with what you were talking about a little bit. Howard, in this business, I mean, I got a raw piece of land that doesn't have anything on it, or I might have one in the trees somewhere, and it's 2.5, 3 hours from town. Who's buying these pieces of land?
Well, if you're asking me, that's the first question you should be asking yourself. Because when you develop a strategy, the strategy shouldn't start with what kind of land am I going to buy. The strategy should start with who am I going to sell it to. If I know who I'm selling it to, I can figure out what they want, and then I can go source it knowing that I've got a market to sell it to. As they say, there is a pot for every cover. The person who's buying desert land, maybe that disabled veteran, somebody who just hates people, somebody who, doesn't trust the government, wants to live off the grid, a homesteader, pick your label. When you get up into the mountains and you say, oh, who's buying that beautiful, land, but it's so far away? Well, if you're living out in the city, whether it's Denver or New York, it doesn't matter. You want to escape every once in a while. You want that little thing that you can call yours. If you're living in California right now and it's the middle of COVID-19 and they're trying to take away all of your rights and they're giving, so much away in benefits, and you can just see the bankruptcy written on the wall, you might say, look at, I don't know what's going to happen, but when it happens, I need a place to go. Maybe I should buy some land in Western Arizona. So there's a lot of reasons people buy, and it's not for us to decide. One thing I can tell you, probably the single most important point in all of marketing is we are not the market. And if we try to superimpose our beliefs and our values upon the market, we will fail. People buy because of their own reasons and in their own time, in their own way. The best we can do is try to figure out where the sizable market is, understand what it would take to sell to them, and go source that product and get it for them.
That's right. And part of the reason why our industry is doing well right now is because you have with the COVID and the social distancing and everything, and as you talked about, somebody wanting to get the hell out of Dodge, there's a big demand right now for rural land so that people can put a bug out cabin or build a container home or, some sort of alternative, just put a mobile home or a modular out there so they can have a fairly inexpensive place that they can bug out to or that place to go. I've sold land to people who just want to play, a 40-acre parcel out in the middle of Colorado or Arizona where they can just take all their toys and ride motorcycles and shoot their guns and go camping, spend weekends out there with their family, and it's theirs. And they're so far from any neighbors that they don't have to worry about getting on anybody's nerves or anybody complaining about the racket they're making.
Yeah.
There's those. Then, there's people buying what I like to call, there's the cabin lots and there's the bass boat properties. The cabin lots are the properties that are, nestled in the trees. It might be a getaway. It might be a hunting cabin, might be a fishing cabin, both. So it's just that there's a huge market out there. There's tons of demand, and there's just something about land. People like it. And right now, there's something
like it a lot.
Something about people wanting a place that's not in the damn city.
That's it. When the zombie apocalypse comes, we need to have our escape route. We got to have our go bag. We got to have our 4-wheel drive, and we got to be able to have a destination to get to.
That's right. All right. Well.
All right. So we will end on zombies.
There you go. And talk to you guys later.
See ya. We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.